In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
This wasn't a basketball game. It was a heist, orchestrated in plain sight. The Indiana Fever were on an unstoppable 3-game rampage, crushing championship contenders like the Las Vegas Aces. They were supposed to steamroll the Los Angeles Sparks, one of the worst teams in the league, even without their star player. But they lost. And the reason why will make your blood boil. This game wasn't decided by skill. It was stolen by a series of calls so egregious, so one-sided that head coach Stephanie White needed only 5 powerful words to expose the entire sham.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
The stage was set for another Fever victory, but the team walked onto the court already fighting a battle on 3 fronts. The most obvious blow was the absence of Caitlin Clark, who was sidelined for her 5th straight game with a nagging groin injury. Without Clark, the Fever's entire identity changes. Her court vision, her gravitational pull on defenses, and her ability to create something out of nothing is the engine that drives their offense. Taking her out of the lineup is like ripping the soul out of the team, forcing them into a slower, more predictable style of play that they have struggled to master.
Finding out this morning that we probably need to hold out again today. It really is a day-to-day thing. And I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer, and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So, we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
But that was just the beginning. The team was also missing key rotational players, including Dearica Hamby, who was away representing her country in the FIBA America. Her absence left a significant void in their front court depth. Then came the shocking news that veteran Dawana Bonner had quit the team entirely, a devastating blow that rocked the locker room and removed another experienced presence. In one fell swoop, 3 major pieces were gone, leaving the Fever wounded and vulnerable.
Howard looking back door for Mitchell. Not there. Shot clock down to 7. McDonald feed inside, and it's Howard for 2. It's good record.
Here's where the story gets strange. Even with a depleted roster missing its biggest star, the Fever were still considered heavy favorites. ESPN's matchup predictor gave them a staggering 72.9% chance to win. The odds makers at MGM had them favored by 6.5 points. Everyone from the experts to the fans believed that the remaining talent on the Fever roster was more than enough to handle a struggling Sparks team.
I don't get it. Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls, touch fouls, anything. And guess what happens? Aaliyah Boston, the best center in the game, and guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark. But anybody else, the physicality disappears. And it's foul after foul.
The logic was simple. The Sparks were statistically one of the worst teams in the WNBA, fighting to stay competitive on most nights. Meanwhile, the Fever were fresh off a 3-game rampage against some of the league's top contenders. Aaliyah Boston was playing like an MVP, Kelsey Mitchell was stepping up as a reliable second option, and the team's chemistry looked unbreakable. On paper, this was a mismatch. The Fever's remaining all-star talent should have been enough to cruise to a comfortable victory, but the game isn't played on paper, and something sinister was brewing beneath the surface.
What does it take to get a team to be more consistent, especially from you on the coaching side of things?
Yeah, I think a couple things. There's always got to be a high attention to knowing personnel. Oftentimes you don't get a lot of practice time, and so going over a lot of their sets, which you do, but at the end of the day, making sure we know our personnel, who we're going to run off the 3-point line, what we're willing to give up, We've got to make sure that there's a high attention to detail there.
As the game unfolded, it became clear that 3 women on the Indiana Fever refused to let their team go down without a fight. They played with a level of intensity that bordered on heroic, each trying to single-handedly will their team to victory. Aaliyah Boston was an absolute force of nature in the paint. She poured in 23 points and ripped down 12 rebounds in a performance that screamed dominance. She was aggressive, efficient, and showed the world why she is considered the future of the center position.
Here's Mitchell off the screen, but can't connect on the 3. Boston offensive rebound, rolls it in and a foul. The 2 bigs bring the ball up the floor, and Hamby wasn't ready for that.
How about that change of pace and burst like a guard, gets downhill to the rim.
Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell embraced her role as the team's leader in Clark's absence. She dropped a crucial 19 points, hitting 3-pointers that kept the Fever's hopes alive when the offense stalled. The game was also a massive personal milestone for Mitchell, as she played in her 251st game for the franchise, a testament to her loyalty and leadership. Only the legendary Tamika Catchings has played more.
Lob inside. Boston too far underneath. Shot clock down to 5. Kick out Mitchell. Oh, yes!
And then there was Natasha Howard, the savvy veteran who brought her championship pedigree to the court. Howard was a model of efficiency, scoring 21 points on an incredible 8 of 11 shooting while adding 9 rebounds. She was the steady hand, the calming presence who made smart plays and hit tough shots when the pressure mounted. These 3 were putting on a clinic, a championship level performance that should have been more than enough, but it wasn't.
Busted them all up. We went to the same high school.
Howard left alone, answers with a 3.
With Boston, Mitchell, and Howard firing on all cylinders, you could feel the momentum slowly shifting. The comeback was within reach. The Fever were clawing their way back into a game they had no business losing. But just as they reached for victory, a hidden hand began to slap it away. The brilliance of the Fever's stars was about to be overshadowed by officiating so one-sided it defied belief.
LA is so dangerous. They don't look like a 5-win team to me.
Oh, and there's Tipson sending it back.
It started with a play that left everyone watching in stunned silence. Sophie Cunningham was driving to the basket when a Sparks player literally grabbed her around the neck. It was a clear and obvious foul, a dangerous play that had no place in the game. But the whistle never came for a foul. Instead, the refs called it a jump ball. It was a baffling, inexcusable decision that signaled the beginning of the heist.
And then Aaliyah Boston, like I said, she didn't touch her. They put her in foul trouble all season long. They're just calling stuff to call stuff. The refs made this game about them. Aaliyah Boston, again, she's an all-star player. Look at these hits. Good thing Caitlin Clark didn't play because it was just a sloppy basketball game between the officials and the Los Angeles Sparks. Look at this. They called this a foul instead of a block. And then there's Aaliyah Boston again. That's 3 fouls where she didn't touch anybody. And that's our best player, and wonder why we lose this game. Michaela Timpson, watch these 2 calls in a row. She didn't do anything. She got hit on that one, and they called a foul on her.
From that moment on, the refs seemed to have a clear agenda. Their primary target was Aaliyah Boston. Every time she established position in the paint, a phantom touch foul was called against her. She was punished for being strong, for being dominant. The message was clear. Aaliyah Boston would not be allowed to win this game for the Fever.
And this is 4th quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up. Lexi Hall can't believe it. That's a foul. The ref was right there in front of her. And then here we go. And they kept McDonald in foul trouble the entire game. There's 2 in a row where she didn't do anything. Look at that. Just had her arms in the air, but they gave, this is the 4th quarter, and they just kept giving every single call. I like Leah Boston finally getting pissed off. Then they call this away from the ball in the 4th quarter. Nothing going on. just to put him at the line, and then Kelsey Plum another one. But when Howard drives and gets slashed across the face, no foul, just out of bounds.
The pattern of questionable calls continued, growing more egregious as the game entered its most critical moments. The officials seemed determined to kill any momentum the Fever could build. Michaela Onyenwere and Ariel McDonald found themselves in constant foul trouble, with whistles blowing on plays where there was little to no contact. It was death by 1,000 cuts, a slow and methodical dismantling of the Fever's chances.
In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
The most damning evidence of the biased officiating came from the plays that weren't called. In one sequence, Natasha Howard drove hard to the rim and was viciously slashed across the face. It was a clear foul, visible to everyone in the arena and everyone watching at home. There was no whistle. Just seconds later, a Sparks player would drive and receive a foul call for the slightest bit of contact, sending them to the free throw line. It was a blatant double standard, but the most disgusting moment came from Sparks guard Kelsey Plum, who elbowed Lexi Hull and then, in an act of pure disrespect, purposely stepped over her as she lay on the ground. It was an unsportsmanlike, dirty play, and the referee was standing just feet away, watching it all unfold. Nothing was called.
I mean, look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. I mean, that's part of it. I thought, AB had a really good look at the end. And so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us, continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time, and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.
After watching her team fight with everything they had, only to have the victory systematically ripped from their grasp, Coach Stephanie White walked into the post-game press conference. The air was thick with unspoken anger. You could see the frustration etched onto her face, the quiet fury of a coach who knew her team had been wronged. Reporters waited, expecting a standard, cliche-filled response about execution or missed shots.
Here is Boston on a handoff to Cunningham. Head full of steam to the rim, and a foul. Cunningham and one.
I mean, this is just a really good screen by Boston to give her a step. The switch. Sophie's having a good time.
But this time was different. This loss, this injustice was a bridge too far. With the cameras rolling and the mics on, Stephanie White delivered a response that was as brief as it was explosive. In just 5 powerful words, she said everything that needed to be said. We didn't get the calls. That was it. No excuses, no coach speak, just the cold, hard truth. Those 5 words sent shockwaves through the WNBA community. It was a direct shot at the officiating, a stunning moment of candor from a coach who had seen enough. She spoke for every player on her team and every fan who watched the game in disbelief, and in doing so, exposed the league's massive officiating problem for the world to see.
Cunningham, Colson, give and go, and Colson hits a 3.
That's called a boomerang pass.
But here's the twisted, shocking truth that no one is talking about. This robbery, this devastating loss, might just be the best thing that ever happened to the Indiana Fever. Think about what this proves. A Fever team missing its superstar, depleted by injuries and absences, and actively being officiated against, still almost beat an opponent on their home floor. That isn't a sign of weakness, it's a terrifying display of underlying strength and resilience.
Percent comes up with the block. Colson launch ahead. Oh, a la Caitlin Clark.
This shared experience of being cheated will forge this young team in fire. It creates a powerful us against the world mentality, a bond that can't be replicated in practice. They now have a common enemy and a collective grievance. This frustration is building hunger. This adversity is forging the mental toughness that wins championships. This loss wasn't a failure. It was the origin story of a vengeful dynasty. Caitlin Clark's return is just around the corner, and when she comes back, she won't be rejoining a broken team. She'll be rejoining a group of battle-hardened warriors who have been tested, who have been wronged, and who are hungry for payback. They will remember every bad call, every cheap shot, and every team that kicked them while they were down. The league may have let the Sparks get away with a win, but in the process, they may have just created a monster, and that monster is coming for everyone.